back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Don't need money, don't take fame, don't need no credit card to ride this train. It's strong and it's sudden and it's cruel.
And we're back. Welcome to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Today we're talking about your financial future with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group Financial Services, Inc. Now, before we get into the conversation, I want to let you know that you're going to have an opportunity to actually meet Jim at the Tapestry Foundation's Seniors Lifestyle event. It's at Van Dusen Botanical Gardens, Wednesday, October 7th. It runs from 10 till 4. Mark that in your calendars. So, Jim, before the break, we were having a great chat and looking at the best ways to set up our kids on the right path when it comes to becoming financially responsible. So, Jim, when it comes to teachable moments, whether the kids are still at home or at university, where's a good place for them to start?
For parents who have teenage children still living at home, a good suggestion could center on creating a budget for back-to-school shopping, which could include clothing, school supplies, maybe a new cell phone. You would sit down together and work out needs versus wants as part of a team effort. For parents whose kids are headed off to university, the budget conversation could be more comprehensive. Perhaps you could include items like credit cards, emergency funds, travel funds, for occasions like spring break. Are they looking for part-time work while they're in school? Are they considering applying for a bursary or scholarship at any point during their post-secondary education experience? There are many tendrils which will emerge as you sit down together and explore this uncharted territory.
Do you have any suggestions for those families that are facing such choices and are actually looking for help?
One area which can be overlooked when it comes to finding extra funding for school are bursaries and scholarship opportunities. Students need to be strategic in determining which programs to apply for, which schools are offering scholarships, and the application timelines involved. As a planner, I make sure I let clients know that there are potential options available for exploration.
Well, you raise a very good point there. Do you actually know of any funding sources that you think our listeners haven't even heard of yet?
Maybe I do.
We're looking for a hot tip here, Jim.
I think this one's a neat one. Do you know that you might be able to pay for some of your college or university with frequent flyer miles? I think Canada's largest airline loyalty program lets its members use air miles for tuition, and sometimes room and board at over 70 colleges and universities in Canada. Now, don't quote me on this, but I believe members can redeem 35,000 miles to buy a $250 certificate that is credited directly to a student's account.
Wow, that's an awesome tip. I had no idea that Air Miles even offered an option like this. Definitely one worth researching.
Rising tuition costs are stretching everyone's budget. You know, in an era of $400 textbooks, it's getting more expensive. And not to mention or forget the technical requirements like laptops, cell phones, data plans, and the list goes on. The real challenge often comes from the students having a really big wish list. They want to travel, they want to have the best data plan for their cell phones. Sometimes the real help that's needed is to help students think realistically about what's possible and to establish a budget and prioritize spending to help their money to ensure that it goes as far as possible.
Mm-hmm. Kids and budgets? Wow. How do you manage needs and wants when kids want absolutely everything?
That's a tough one. We're hearing from more and more families that there's only so much money to go around, and it's important that proper planning start early when it comes to saving for your kids' or grandkids' education.
So in your experience, have you actually seen a fair bit of grandparents helping out with the kids or grandkids' education planning, so to speak?
I do. While an RESP, which is Registered Education Savings Plan, might not be right for everyone, I like them for families that are looking to save money for their kids' or grandkids' education. If you put $2,500 in, the government will match the first 20%, or $500.
Wow. So is this something you can do, like, can you add to this every year?
The RESP plan allows contributions up to a lifetime total of $41,000, with up to $7,200 available in the Canadian Education Savings Grants.
Are there a number of different plans available, or is it just one basic plan?
Well, yeah, there's three main types out there. There's an individual plan that has one beneficiary, a family plan where you can have more than one beneficiary, but they have to be related. And then there's a group plan. And of course, each group plan works differently from an individual plan or a family plan, and they each have their own rules. The group RESP money that you put in is pooled with the contributions of other investors. My recommendation? Shop around before you buy, because different RESP providers have different rules and fees, and be sure to understand your options. Whatever plan you choose, plan to be consistent in your contributions.
So can you continue to just make contributions every year until the kids make it to university?
In some of the plans, yes. Keep in mind, however, that you are careful, as there are special rules for students aged 16 and 17 in terms of getting the grant money from the government. It's important to be aware of the options available, as well as the constraints and rules which must be followed.
Well, it sounds reasonable to me. In your experience, what's the key to getting the most value from your education savings plan?
I think one of the keys is starting early. The second key is about being consistent with savings. We have a number of families that add to their RESPs on a monthly basis, and it builds up over time. It's a lot easier than trying to find lump sums of money to pay for ongoing expenses. I think that even a few parents who've gone to university themselves are surprised at just how much the cost of tuition and books have gone up so much over the past several years.
So, Jim, what steps could our listeners actually take today when it comes to planning for their kids or even their grandkids' education needs?
An often overlooked key to success is having a plan and putting that plan in writing. You're going to need to know how much you might need to put aside every month to pay for university, and it begs the question, how do I get there from here? A written plan can help provide a sense of whether you're on track or you need to make changes to get back on track.
So if you have a couple of kids going to university in succession, 2 or 3 years apart, I can see where you might need to actually do a little bit of planning to make sure that the cash flow is going to be there.
Joanne, it's really tough on parents. A number of the families I work with tell me that their kids don't know where they want to go to university or even which major they want to pursue. Maybe this is partly why a number of parents are reluctant to crunch the numbers to know how much they're ultimately going to need and where it's going to come from. With this financial commitment potentially affecting the kids' university or affecting their own retirement, they need a plan.
This is Boomer Life on CL 650, and we're speaking with Jim Doyle today, a senior financial consultant with Investors Group. This conversation is all about planning for your kids' education and also planning for your parents. So we've been speaking about one half of that sandwich generation issue, where parents are looking after kids at the same time as they plan for their own retirement. Now we're going to be addressing the other half of that sandwich. Boomers taking care of aging and ailing parents or loved ones. This is a huge issue that so many in our audience are dealing with right now. So, Jim, how do we plan for this?
Planning for the sandwich generation is not just about the money. It's also about the emotional side of things and how that's going to impact you. Arranging your finances to distribute more cash flow can be quite a challenge, particularly if you need to consider downsizing your home. Being asked to manage your parents' money can also pose a significant challenge, especially when their risk tolerance and objectives may not mirror your own. Remember that in addition to managing their investments, there may also be ongoing healthcare expenses to pay for. That's why it's important to plan ahead and to speak with your family about which planning options might provide the best opportunities when that date comes.
I get a sense that you're very comfortable helping families plan for this transition. You're comfortable initiating the tougher questions with the parents and their kids.
Thanks, Joanne. It's very kind of you to say that. Often, we're invited into the process because the kids can't make heads or tails of the tax and investment records. I remember a number of years ago, a client family asked me to come out and talk with their dad, whose health was declining. They could see they were going to be required to manage his affairs in the not too distant future. They said they knew that this day would come, but they'd never had any discussions about it and what it might look like, or even which elements they were going to need to address. For those who don't have great records on their stock portfolios, this can be a time-consuming, frustrating, and expensive experience. This could also be a good time to ask, how do you think your record keeping is?
Well, I wonder if many families are reluctant to have these conversations because they're fearful, or they're fearful of the answers or the strife that it may cause. It's just simply not an easy discussion.
Absolutely. Okay. There's a number of potential landmines here. Sometimes clients or their kids are simply unwilling to consider that their parents' health may decline or that at some point they may no longer be there. An unwillingness to engage in the planning process can stem from the fact that mortality and health are sensitive issues. On the other hand, parents may be reluctant to allow their kids to see their complete financial picture, to either see how well they've done and what they've got, or how poorly they've done. We often see that for many families, it's difficult for them to talk about money matters.
Well, Jim, parents can be reluctant to have their accounts scrutinized, for sure. Where do you think this apprehension comes from?
It's not uncommon that retirees may not have saved enough for retirement and end up taking on a little more risk, attempting to make up for the shortfall. Sometimes, when a son or daughter gets involved, they may be looking at their parents' money as their inheritance, and they may feel that there's too much risk, which means there's the potential to lose money, putting their inheritance in jeopardy.
It sounds like there can be some reluctance to engage because there may be underlying issues which are unresolved or unaddressed, and bringing them up could potentially be a little bit painful.
Joanne, you may or may not be surprised at the number of undisclosed agendas, disorganized records, and competing family dynamics that rise to present challenges when professionals such as myself come to the table. When we hear that clients or their families are uncomfortable around certain issues, we ask permission to explore matters in further detail to help facilitate these types of conversations.
Well, they're all completely sensitive issues, Jim. Money, family, and aging with dignity. That's a big one.
They certainly are. We're seeing more and more Canadians who want to remain in their own homes as long as they can before moving into assisted living. This means making arrangements for care providers to come to the home, or reaching the understanding that family members will need to step in and help. When we talk about Alzheimer's, would it surprise you to know that the average stay in a care facility right now is over 9 years?
Wow. Having an advisor who knows your complete financial picture can be a wonderful asset during these emotionally charged times.
It can be, I agree. Joanne, in simplified terms, financial planning should look at how much income you've got coming in, and what your ongoing expenses look like, and how long your money is going to last given certain variables. For many of the retirees that I work with, they often have questions like, who's going to take care of me? Where's the money going to come from to pay for this? And in those types of situations, a written plan can help you manage these variables, modeling the various outcomes and preventing stress, if possible.
So, Jim, we hear all the time about the advantages of having that written financial plan, but I don't think most of us actually know what it is or what it looks like. What would you say to our listeners on that topic?
The term financial plan is pretty generic, but yours shouldn't be. Your plan should be a good fit for your life in the future as it is today. Should be easily adaptable to the consistent or constant changes that you're bound to encounter in the future, and be focused on assisting you in achieving your long-term life and retirement goals.
So, Jim, today we've had a great conversation and covered a lot of topics about helping children get started with their education and managing our funds to be able to allow them to do that. We've talked a little bit about looking after aging parents and setting up our finances to help be able to do that as well. And also just the basic importance of having a written financial plan. Is there any special message that you want to leave with us today?
Oh, yes, a couple of final messages if I could. Explore your relationship with money. How does it make you feel? Understanding your relationship with money can provide a stronger benefit when working with your advisor. Next, understand risk and volatility and how they affect your long-term objectives, and making sure that your risk profile really fits what you're trying to do.
And of course, we like to end every show with the 3 T's, don't we?
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely. The time to do the research and anticipate tax consequences. Technique, knowing what you're doing with knowledge, and of course, temperament, emotional control.
Jim, thank you very much for joining us today. You are listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Today we have been speaking with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group. And Jim, I know you've mentioned before that if our listeners have a bit of doubt about their situation or where they're going financially, that it can be as simple as giving you a phone call to gain some clarity. To learn more about how Jim Doyle can actually help with your financial situation, simply give him a call, toll free, 1-800-665-7178, or locally at 604-682-5431. Or a third option, come and visit Jim, meet him in person at Van Dusen Gardens, Wednesday, October 7th, between 10 and 4. It's all part of the Tapestry Foundation's Tapestry Talks Seniors Lifestyle event. Thank you for joining us today on Boomer Life on CL 650.